Well, good evening. At 7 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West, held this 25th day of April, 2023 at 7 p.m. in Council Chambers at 216 Main Street, Swan River. Present this evening, myself, Reeve, Gade. We have Councillor Kushniryk, Councillor Blosha, Councillor Burick is with us, Councillor Zbirun, Councillor Neely, and Councillor McGregor. We also have our interim CIO, Pat Ellingson, here, and our videographer is here this evening, Mr. Jeremy Bergen. And for the first time in a long while, we have guests in the gallery. It's nice to see some people out tonight. We're going to move along to item number 2 because we have no notices of absence tonight. Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular meeting of Council held this 25th day of April 2023 shall be adopted as presented. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Burick, and a seconder. Councillor McGregor. Any additions, changes, or discussion for the agenda tonight before we pass this? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. I know our public hearing is scheduled for 7, but we'll just go into minutes quick first, and then we'll get to the public hearing after that. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held April 11th, 2023 be adopted as presented. A mover, please. Councillor Neely, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Blosha. You have a copy of the minutes there. Has everybody had a chance to look at them already? No? Then we'll give a minute for everyone to take a peek. Is everybody good? Any errors or omissions or discussion on the minutes this evening? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. We're going to head to our public hearing. That's section 4 on the agenda. To do that, we're going to close the regular meeting. We'll reopen it shortly after. Be it resolved, we close the regular meeting of council at 7:04 p.m. to move to the public hearing regarding the variation order. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Zbirun and Councillor Kushniryk. Any discussion on the resolution? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor? It's carried. Here's a page, please. Welcome everyone to the public hearing held by Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West in the Council Chambers, 216 Main Street West, Swan River, Manitoba, April 25th, 2023 at 7:04 p.m. regarding the variation order applications for AG Zone. Tonight we're looking at a variation for Northeast 34, 35, 28 west of the Prime Meridian. Present this evening for the hearing, Reeve, Gade, Councillors Brian Burick, Brad Kushniryk, RJ McGregor, Terry Neely, Byron, Zbirun, and Carrie Blosha. Variation order is required for non-farm subdivision over the maximum of 10 acres. The proposed subdivision is submitted for a 13.90 acre parcel that includes an existing yard site. Community Planning has issued conditional approval for the subdivision application and must obtain municipal approval prior to completing the other conditions of the subdivision. Do we have anyone in attendance tonight that wanted to speak on the public hearing? No? Okay. Does anybody have any written presentations that have been received on this particular hearing? No? So council has a copy of this electronically. We've looked at this just briefly before when we set the hearing date, so we're back to make the decision tonight. Questions, comments from anybody about this? Councillor Neely.
Exact location, is that the borough's property? Is it the borough's before?
Oh, I don't know, somebody's before.
Somebody know whose it was before? Brian, do you remember the
You
name?
know, Carrie, the
No,
west-
I know whose it is
West
now.
of Dave Adams. Yeah. I think it used to be Clarence Burroughs at one time.
Could be.
Okay, I know where it is.
And this is how it's going to be cut out, with the way these lines are drawn here?
Yeah, the way this is set up, this is what would be proposed. It's kind of a,
What's the sense of having something like that there with that? I mean, it's just a little sliver, I mean, he might as well just go straight, no?
What's this circle here?
Oh, that's what I mean, he put a circle there, and then there's just, what's this guy gonna do with that little piece right there? You know what I mean?
You farm around it,
Oh,
because they're
I see.
gonna make the yard site bigger. So they'll farm around it.
I guess if the
Yeah,
farmer
but
had a problem, he would have been here.
They
right?
must-
There's
they
a wedge you gotta eat.
Yeah.
so we do advise the immediate neighbors. So if you're in a certain location, you'll receive a copy of this, and if they have any concerns there.
Good.
And they don't have to come, they can send it in writing, but they have to contact us to let us know if they have a concern.
Okay.
I will admit, I've never seen a subdivision quite like it.
Yeah.
It's unique, but hey, maybe that's what they're after, is something totally unique.
Okay.
Have a
That's where I
presence.
that's
Yeah.
where I put my big garden, like.
Yeah, but it's that little wedge beside the circle that's
Why
gonna
you
be
would square it across.
That's gonna be,
Sure.
yeah.
Then it
too-
would make it maybe too much.
Here comes Rick.
Oh, okay, no, maybe.
Then have
Okay,
a-
whatever.
I think perhaps the most entertaining is I had no idea you could subdivide a circle. I thought it had to be square, but it does not apparently, because they've approved it further up. Anybody else with questions, concerns, comments tonight? No? One last call for the gallery. We're still all fine. So we have a resolution tonight to consider. Whereas the owners of Northeast 34, 35, 28 West made an application for a variation for a non-farm subdivision over the maximum 10 acres to 13.90 acres. And whereas there have been no presentations to object to the application, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West approve the variation order as presented. Is there a mover for that resolution? Councillor Blosha, and I see Councillor Neely as well. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. That is removed. Thank you. So ends the public hearing. Be it resolved that we close the public hearing and reopen the regular meeting of council at 7:07 p.m. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Burick, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor McGregor. Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Tonight we do not have our urban lead hand available for a public works report. However, Mr. Bobick will be attending at 9 p.m. tonight to provide his update. The likelihood is that that will be in camera given the content of the update tonight. We have no petitions to present tonight, so we're going to head to number 8, general business, if that suits the group. Let's start at the top with 8.1, the Manitoba Good Roads Association. Be it resolved that the payment of $200 be approved for the 2023 membership of the Manitoba Good Roads Association. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. So council's provided tonight, and I think it's on the public agenda as well, a membership letter from the Good Roads Association. They're looking for the $200. They note that besides just talking about good roads, they also provide some training courses. One of them, unfortunately, looks like we've missed already, the gravel road maintenance and design, but they will offer that again. So certainly our membership gets us more than just the fuzzy feeling of being a member. There is some benefit to it. Does anyone wish to discuss the membership? I know it was previously discussed, should we not do it? This would be a good time if someone thinks we shouldn't to be talking about it. What are your thoughts? Don't all speak at once.
It's only $200.
We might send somebody there.
Okay, so I think I'm
We
hearing.
might,
Might.
at some point.
Yeah. Okay, any further discussion? Anyone with other comments, questions, concerns? If not, we'll call the question. Those in favor of the resolution? That's carried. 8.2 won't be quite as short and sweet. So I think we'll start with the resolution, and then I'll give you some explanation on what's happening here, because you probably will want some. Whereas Prairie Mountain Health wishes to enter into an agreement with the town of Swan River, the municipality of Swan Valley West, the municipality of Minnetonka Bozeman, and the rural municipality of Mountain to the committed funding from the municipalities for the design, build, and management of the construction of a CT scanner at the Swan Valley Health Center, be resolved that Reeve Gade be authorized to sign the memorandum of understanding on behalf of the municipality of Swan Valley West. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk. Would someone like to second the resolution? Councillor Neely. So a copy of the MOU is provided. So as you know, for some time we've been discussing the CT scanner. Previous councils had committed to $1 million of funding, which was sourced $600,000 from the Medical Recruitment and Retention Committee, $300,000 from the Health Facilities Foundation, and $100,000 to be made up from fundraising from the community. However, councils had all also passed a resolution saying that should the fundraising fall short of the full $100,000, they would make up the shortfall. So what has transpired here is they're in the final stages of ordering a CT scanner and beginning the installation process. And they've indicated as Shared Health and the government that in times past, other communities have committed to funding, but then haven't followed through on it. So they say, oh, we have $1 million for a project, the project gets built, but the $1 million never gets turned over. So they become a little gun shy on building these things when there's a promise of money without something in place that the money comes. We are a little gun shy on handing over $1 million without seeing a CT scanner, because about the last thing we're interested in with an election looming is paying someone $1 million and not ending up with a CT scanner. So some negotiations have gone on, and what has been agreed to by the parties is that $1 million will be placed in a term deposit, a GIC, held in the name of the town of Swan River, that will only be released in two parts. So the first part of the money, $500,000, will be released according to the agreement. Let me just make sure I get the wording right so I don't mislead anyone. Upon arrival of the CT scanner at the Swan Valley Health facilities. So it's not installed, it means it's physically in the building to be installed. They receive $500,000. The second $500,000 is released when the first patient goes through it. So the thought is, and this was the discussion of a committee and some others, once the scanner is physically in the building, the chance of it not being completed is next to zero, but there's still, I suppose, they could ship the scanner away without installing it. But obviously once it's operating, it's not going to be ripped out at that point. So that was kind of how the ideas came up. There was some other discussion. At one point, PMH had wanted to be on certain dates. We didn't want to do the dates because what if the scanner wasn't done by then? We didn't want to hand over the money. The second part of this is that councils had previously agreed to backstop that fundraising, and it was to be done per capita. So the money in the retention and recruitment fund is already per capita in the exact same formula. So the thought was, because the foundation says it might take them a few weeks to be able to release the $300,000 from their account to this trust fund, I shouldn't say trust fund, to this GIC, that $1 million would go immediately upon this all being passed from the medical recruitment into the GIC, and the paperwork would go back. Health facilities would pay the $300,000 to medical recruitment to replace it, and the fundraising money would get paid to medical recruitment to replace the $100,000. If there wasn't enough fundraising money, medical recruitment would just eat the losses because it's in the same formula. So rather than doing a bunch of paperwork and coming back and saying everybody owes this amount, the contributions made already would be the same percentage per municipality. Does that kind of make sense to people?
Yeah, so the $1 million is there.
Yeah. And the interest is a question that came up. So the interest is to be, the town owns the account, the interest, all of it, goes to the medical recruitment committee so that it becomes income to them. And depending on how long this drags on, that will take down the amount of fundraising required as well, because that interest will be accruing on the $1 million.
Yeah, we'll be in the same boat.
Did you give any, like how soon this will be
So
operational?
There's been a range of dates. The last I heard was anything from 8 months to 14 months. Certainly the original document called for the second payment to be in June of next year was when they thought they'd be done. I know that there was some concern from the Premier and the Minister of Health. Both visited Shared Health about that timeline and said it was unacceptable and said it had to be much sooner. And their preference is that CT scanner is in that building before the election, obviously, as is ours, because we just don't want to roll those dice. I'm sure that whoever the next government is feels we need a CT scanner too, but why take the chance? We'd rather have it here already.
Has this been presented to Prairie Mountain Health, or is this,
So this was written by Prairie Mountain Health.
the whole thing is,
Yes, the only thing that has been adjusted, they proposed this to us. They didn't want to go back to their legal department and create a new document, so this document was from a different project they did, just with the name as details changed. The appendix at the end that has how the payments are made, that's where the modifications were made.
okay, sure.
And from what I
Yeah, I
understand, they were
wonder
okay
why.
with it.
Why would they make those modifications? You guys must have had a meeting and
Yeah, we, medical professional recruitment and retention committee met and went over the changes. And Prairie Mountain Health has been very clear that they just want proof of the $1 million. They want to know it's there. So the moment it's in that term deposit, they know it exists. Any further questions on this? Any other discussion? Are we feeling a comfort level to go ahead and voting on this? Everybody's okay with?
we sort of discussed it last time. Sort of,
Okay.
I think we were in agreement.
It was agreed upon years ago.
Yeah, we didn't vote on anything,
Okay, so if there's no further discussion, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. 8.3, household garbage collection agreements. Whereas the municipality of Swan Valley West has agreements with some landowners for garbage collection whose properties share a border with Bonito, and whereas these agreements were signed in 2018, and whereas the cost of fuel, maintenance, and labor have increased since then, now therefore be it resolved that the cost of this service shall be increased to blank annually. So what we need is a number to put in there before we continue on. A copy of the household garbage collection agreements provided from 2018. The old number is $175 annually. The suggested amount, was it 200? Staff is suggesting 200 based on the budget for garbage collection for this year in the LUD of Bonito. So 200 would be a reasonable fair share for an extra house to have collection. Does anyone have questions, comments, other suggestions for an amount?
Those are lots of people that
I don't believe
took you up on
lots.
this
There are
before.
3 currently.
Hmm?
There are 3 currently.
Just 3
And
people.
it's a route that the truck already goes, like they don't go out of the way to collect it.
He goes right
Yeah,
down.
see, it's for household only, so they still gotta go to the landfill if they have any other kind of stuff, right?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just
furniture,
garbage.
the wood or whatever, yeah.
Okay, so I put $200 in there. Do you folks want the resolution reread with the 200 in there?
Well,
Where is,
no, I
no? Okay. Is there a mover for the resolution? Councillor Kushniryk, is someone willing to second the resolution? Councillor McGregor. So the resolution as it stands says $200. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Let's move to 8.4. Yes, 8.4. So this is a subdivision. Let's take a peek at it first before we get to the resolution. So there's a attachment there for you folks to see, which shows the subdivision map fairly near the end when you get to the colored map. That's it. So they're essentially adding that little chunk, from what I understand, into the other chunk that already exists to square the yard off. If you see where the tree line is there, there's a little red rectangle. That becomes part of the yard site instead of being part of the farmland. The letter essentially says that this is fine with everybody else as long as it's fine with us. So mostly this is just consolidation to square it off.
I'm not asking for much else, just that.
Yeah. So I'll start with reading the resolution and then we'll see where we go. Whereas the owners of Southeast 63827 West have made application to consolidate 1.13 acres from CT 2667709/6 to their existing yard site to include a tree line for their shelter belt, therefore be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approve the subdivision. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Neely. Any discussion on the resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. We'll move to section 9 on our agenda, financial items. We'll start with the general checks resolution. We'll read the resolution, then we'll take a peek through the checks. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 18806 to 18832 in the amount of $62,238.56. Is there a mover? Councillor Burick, and a seconder, please. Councillor Kushniryk. There is one check I attached to the agenda already. There's a snow invoice there. I figured folks would want to see what that one was, so it's there so you can read it without me trying to read it all up to you. There was one other check that I felt we should review, just so you knew what it was. I'll dig it out here. Actually, a couple. So check 18816 is to William Gage. You might recognize him. This stems from September 2021. Our financial officer has found that the payment was not released for the council indemnity that month. So they have recommended we release the payment for it because it made the books be out of balance. It was recorded in the computer as paid, but the money was never actually transferred. It was held back from the electronic transfer that month.
So I went into those minutes and looked at it, and I couldn't find it in that.
So it wasn't approved then?
It wasn't approved. It wasn't in the minutes because that would have been the. You said that's the September indemnity, so I can show you the October minutes.
This is what they gave us. They gave us a list of things that were pending that hadn't been processed from the computer system.
So I can go back to the October.
Okay. So shall we remove that one for tonight?
Well, I don't know. It
Who
wasn't.
found that?
Lisa.
Lisa.
Finance
Lisa.
officer.
Yeah, when she was trying to balance
Who's in
these
accounts
things.
payable?
Just wait. I'll go back because it would have been should be in the November minutes as well. Correct?
Well, this was dated September 15th, so it should be in September. First meeting in September would be where the approval would be expected.
Okay.
Because
So that
normally
would
they
be
approve
the
that first meeting.
September 13th meeting, right?
Sounds good, right?
Okay, we'll go down to here. And right here. That would be the August indemnities?
Must be. Because it paid September 15th, should be August.
Yeah, and if you look, you can look through the August indemnities right here.
So I wonder, seeing how you were there, can you explain why the indemnity wasn't paid if it was legally required?
I don't think you submitted your form.
Which isn't legally required, but all the forms I submitted that seemed to disappear from Mr. Webb. This is certainly not the only month, but
Anyway.
rather than having a fight about tonight, I would suggest we'll set that check out. And we will go back and look at every single month that Mr. Webb refused to pay me, and we'll come back with that amount. And then we'll continue on. So we'll change the resolution if we're okay with that in a minute, but we won't change it until we look at the rest in case there's more changes. We're getting
One
to
way
it.
or another, Bill, you'll be buying donuts for the next month or two, eh?
Good call. You know, I think in general, it's just unfortunate that council saw fit to treat people like crap last time around, but that was their choice.
Snow removal, big chunk of this. Final check, say, snow removal.
Yes, and that's, you have that,
40% of the check.
yeah. The other one that's here, I'm just not seeing it here, it's for Valley Water. It's for actually thawing culverts. And it was worth pointing out that some of those culvert thaws cost us $600.
It was, one was 578, 616, and
Here's the check
677. Yep. Check number 42901, 42930, and
Oh, sorry, no, I meant
42914.
the cleaning of culverts.
That's thaw culverts. There's three of them. 42930, 42914. That's culverts, thaw culverts, it says.
Oh, here, 18829, okay.
Oh, that's the invoice number.
Oh.
The check number is 188.
There, perfect.
188.29,
Okay.
yeah.
So the one of those is a Benito lift station, but then there's two culvert saws, one 616 and one 677. It's just kind of worth noting, I think, that we have our own culvert thawing equipment that was not being used at the time. And that's what it costs to not use our equipment and have somebody else saw the culverts instead. So it's kind of expensive. Any other questions on the checks?
We didn't have anybody to run it, did we?
That is debatable. Unfortunately, we can't discuss that until we can.
We,
18,832 reprints? Do you know?
registrations on this.
Print
Yeah.
registration?
Reprint?
Yes,
Re-
none of the
reprint
registrations could be
vehicle
found for the vehicles. So when we tried to safety vehicles, vehicles couldn't be safety because they didn't have registrations in them. That's a
Where
requirement
were
of
they?
safety.
Did you ever find them?
No.
So how many registrations had to be reprinted that it would cost that much?
Usually it's
A
15
lot.
bucks a pop, I think.
I didn't count them, but there was, all the trucks, all the fire trucks. and Anything that requires the semi, the delegate.
Does that not go in your
Trailers.
glove compartment of each vehicle?
It should be in there.
That's what should be carried,
Normally.
but it didn't show up.
I just wonder what that was about.
Lots of donuts there, Byron.
Mm-hmm.
I should do the math here. We'll be right back with you folks. 6, 2,
Oh,
3.
I got one more. I got one more.
Which one are you going after?
18820.
Oh, okay.
188.
I know it's not a big one, but I just wondered why we need more. We had
180.20.
We just bought a whole pallet full of what?
20 flood markers. This invoice is one package of spruce lath, 48 inches, 50 pieces to a bundle for $53.
Oh, so
one
they were
pink
making.
flagging tape,
They were
$4.99.
making
The wooden ones. I
okay,
think.
the wooden
Yeah.
ones. Okay, because I was going to say the other ones. There was a huge pallet of them.
No, this is wood.
Where's the huge pack?
A pallet at the shops. They're
Of the
brand-
orange ones.
orange ones, yes, they're brand new.
I think we did actually run out for so many sites.
Yeah.
I don't know how you can.
And there's
run
no
out.
barricades there either, they're decent, they're all broken. Nothing there.
Yeah, I took the last two good ones, I put them out before.
So there's only two
Well, they
left.
weren't good, I mean, I haven't found them down pretty hard to get them to fit. On that note, am I supposed to pick them up or?
Just make sure staff know that Public Works to deal with it. If you want to, fine. But if
Well,
you
I don't know if somebody did already, I don't know.
Couldn't tell you.
Donnie tells me that it's still closed.
The river's still maybe a little too high to let people get across anyway.
Councillor Neely, you had a check too? Did I hear you had one more check?
question.
Oh! Yeah,
Which one?
188.27. What is that for?
So this is T&C trenching and excavating for a curb stop repair in Benito. 6.5 hours of hydrovac, a winterization charge, 7 hours of a 210 excavator, parts, a poly small base service box, rod for service box, brass curb stop, DR9 pipe, inserts, and a brass union for $42.70.36.
There's a service line to that house that was leaking.
So it was a water leak at a house and it was on our side or their side? Does it matter, Benito?
No,
Because in Swan River it matters which side of the valve it's on. In
Yeah.
Swan River, if you're on the customer side, they pay, and if you're on the utility side, utility pays.
well, I think it was the one that goes from the main line to the service.
So do we- Does anyone know what our policy is on who pays?
I've always
If-
understood
Most
that
places
your
from
side of the valve is your problem,
shut
valve
off
valve is town.
Shut off valve to your house is your responsibility.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
apparently nowadays you can buy insurance for that.
Okay. So do we know which side of the valve this was on?
Well, if it's just, well, I think they should dug up the sidewalk. Is it on?
They completely blocked one driveway still.
It's right at the main line, so, yeah. I wasn't told which side of the valve it was on.
Okay, so we'll have to check that. Let's find out which side of the valve it was on. And then if it was on the side where it's appropriate to be issuing a bill, we'll have to go down that path.
At least I think remember any other ones that went? Most places, that's the way it is, like,
That
When-
was
when
always
they-
the Benito policy.
When they dug up mom and dad's, they said once we dig it up, wherever it is where the bill lands.
yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully it's on the town side.
Yeah,
right?
you're watching close.
That's what everybody hopes, except the town.
Okay, and then the last one, I
Sure.
got one more. 18831. Where's that for? Is that the fire hall?
87
So
Railway.
there's 3 locations, 87 Railway,
Yeah.
216 Main Street, and 803 Willow. Willow would be Thunder West Fire Hall. The 216 Main Street's a lot more expensive than the other two. See if there's a reason why.
That's the town office, right?
Yeah, the 216 is this one, so here it's 160 megabyte internet for, with a discount, $142. Yeah. Firemen's Association, so the Fire Hall in Benito, it's $66, and the cost in Thunder West Fire Hall is $45
And why would we still have internet hooked up there?
for the alarm system, because it also brings the phone service. There was no phone line put in. When the building was built, there was supposed to be a line installed between the old building and the new building, so the phone could be hooked up for the alarm system, but nobody put the line in. So because the line was never put in the ground, there's no way to use the existing phone line. We have to have a second phone line to have an alarm system. I don't know, I haven't explored because it's been winter time, but if there was a way to get that while you're in the ground where it should have been, it would certainly save us $50 a month there. And it might be something staff could do. It would only have to go 18 inches in. This is just a phone line, so it could be done. Any other checks tonight to look at? So we have a change to the resolution we need to run by Councillor Burick and Councillor Kushniryk. We have changed to be it resolved that the Council of Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. General checks number 18806 to 18832, except check 18816 for the amended amount of $61,401.54. Is that okay with the mover and the seconder?
Yeah.
Any other discussion on the checks tonight? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. Payroll checks is next up. The payroll check amounts are there if you folks want to look at them, but they're not provided to the public tonight. Be resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West hereby approves the following payments. Payroll payments number 022 to number 031. The amount of $13,507.15. Is there a mover, please? Councillor Neely, and someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Any discussion on the payroll checks tonight? If you discuss, please don't use the employee name. Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? Councillor Zbirun, did I see? Yeah, okay, good. I just want to make sure. That is carried. 9.3, bank reconciliation of financial reports. So we have October, November, and December financials. Our new chief financial officer has been busy at this. So as of this meeting, all of the 2022 is essentially reconciled with the bank account. The only thing I saw that hasn't been done yet, there's a couple transfers between reserve accounts that were affected but don't correctly show here yet. But for each month we have been presented with reconciliation statements. You have to zoom in a bit, it's kind of hard to read. We'll get that fixed up for next time. But it shows you on the first page there essentially all of the things that had to be adjusted into the computer system to make it match what the bank said. It also shows the checks that weren't cashed yet at the end of the month. Then there's a blank page because computers are like that. And following that, we get into a statement of all the revenue and the liabilities, basically a balance sheet and an income expense sheet. Each of those for these months show just to the end of that month. So the first one shows to the end of October, then it shows to the end of November, the second one to the end of December, and the third one. Those only came out within the last hour or so. So would the will of the group be to pass these tonight, or would you prefer to leave them and come back to them a meeting from now? I see one saying to leave them. Does everybody else kind of have that feeling as well?
Because you can't possibly look through 3
No.
months in 5 minutes.
yeah, we should have sometime.
Okay. So we'll just table that for tonight, and we'll pick it up again next meeting. And I think we'll ask staff to see if they can resolve the issue with the type size on that reconciliation sheet, and we'll get that emailed out to folks before the next meeting, so you have some time with it as well. Those particular statements, what they reflect is every check that was approved at this table anyway, so there shouldn't be any differences in them compared to what we've already approved one piece at a time, but obviously worth looking at just in case. We'll move to 9.4, Budget 2023. Last meeting there was a draft budget document just circulated to everyone. We at the time noted that it was a draft because there were a few things that staff hadn't quite finished off on it. So tonight you've received a paper copy, and there's an electronic one attached here for those at home, or if you folks are looking for a paper copy and can't find it, that essentially is a line-by-line look at what we had in budgeting. So it shows each account we have in the computer, and it does now accurately show the actual expenditures in 2022. I know everybody was going to go home in the last couple of weeks and take a look through and sort of get your mind around the numbers. Did everybody have a chance to do that? So we need to set some dates for budget meetings for council. Would we be as a group able to set those now so we can get the plan made and get here together and go through budget line by line?
Yeah.
Okay. So we have everything we essentially need. So any time that's good for the group. So we're already at the 25th. Is there any interest in this week, or do we want to look into next week? Next week. So that would put us into Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Tuesday work for anybody? Would that be, it's usually a
Tuesday
kind of
evening at
council
7
thing?
o'clock.
Yeah.
That's a second?
Tuesday the 2nd at 7 p.m. So we will set that then. What's the feeling of the group? Are we good with, if we start at 7, we'll go to about 10 so our eyes don't get too buggy? Do you think that will be enough? Do we want to schedule a second
Well,
night
I
right
guess
away?
We'll see at that point,
Okay,
supposedly.
yeah. Okay, so we'll do the 2nd. We won't schedule a second night, but we may that night pick another night. That's agreeable for the group? Okay. Let's put that in here.
I think it's quite important for us to go through it line by line and explain to everybody what it means,
Absolutely.
because we have a lot of new councillors. and
Okay, so the budget will be set over to the 2nd of May. Any other discussion on 9.4 before we move on?
Is the budget going to be open to the public to have meetings as in the past?
We'll have a public hearing, yes. We'll move to 10.1, Northwest Regional Library. So they had been scheduled to be here tonight to present their budget, but unfortunately late today we heard they were not coming. So I want to kind of step through what's happening with the library because it's a very important topic. We need to kind of get all on the same page. The library, I know at first blush is the library, that's a separate group, but in reality the Public Libraries Act provides that the library is a partnership between two councils. So it's the town of Swan River and the Municipality of Swan Valley West that are the library. Between our two groups, we appoint all members of the library board. Some of those members are council members, some of those members are members of the public. But ultimately, the library board is the responsibility of the two councils together in a partnership. And we essentially, basically jointly own the library. We certainly jointly control it. We each have 3 votes on that board. So the library, things haven't been going well. We have Councillor McGregor as a member of the committee, and he made a meeting and kind of clearly indicated to the board that he was only available after 6 p.m. And then was there a single meeting held after 6 p.m. following that, or were they all? So then every meeting was then scheduled when he wasn't available. So that went on for a little while, and the last couple meetings I've appeared as a substitute for him, so that somebody from Swan Valley West was in the room, because the meetings were being scheduled consistently when he couldn't attend. So the first meeting was a couple weeks back, and Councillor McGregor gave notice to the board that I'd be attending on his behalf, which I thought was very nice of him. And I received a phone call a couple hours before the meeting from the chair of the library board, who indicated that it was really nice that I was showing interest in the library, and they thought they could get together with me at some point and talk about the library. And then we talked about a variety of other things. And when the call was coming to an end, I said, well, I'll see you in an hour or two. And they said, oh no, I think you misunderstood. The purpose of the call was to tell you that you're not coming to the meeting tonight. And I said, why wouldn't I be attending the meeting? It's a meeting and I'm subbing. Oh, well, we don't really want someone new there. We don't really want someone to ask questions and know all these things because it's just not really good. So yes, it would be best that you don't attend tonight. So I have to admit I was a little taken aback because it's not very often that an organization that's funded entirely by 2 municipalities tells the municipalities they're not welcome to come. So I did smile my biggest smile and say very clearly that if I was not allowed to attend the meeting at 5 p.m., I would request the council did not fund the library this year. So subsequently, the board decided I could attend the meeting. So I went, and things aren't well at the library. At the meeting, we heard that there was a little over $29,000 of spending in March, but several $1,000s of it they couldn't account for what the actual expenses were. There was several $1,000s of additional expenses to some items they couldn't say to why they were. There were visa statements they couldn't say what was on the visa. They couldn't agree on if they had paid for certain items or not, if some items had been free or some items had been paid for. Ultimately, the checks did not get approved for March because there were so many questions on those checks. They had an interim financial statement that showed January, February, March, and depending on if you look at just the payroll or if you look at the actual expenditures, they're anywhere from $60,000 to $90,000 over budget already. Based on the tracking of those documents. So if you basically took the 3 months and times by 4 compared to what their budget had been last year, they were closing in on $100,000 over budget for this year. And part of the discussion at the meeting was obviously that they had run out of money, and we've had that discussion here before. So Swan Valley West provided $10,000 of emergency funding to the library. The town of Swan River then provided $20,000. And the town minced words less than we did. They said that that was for 2 pay periods, because approximately it should be, according to the budget, $10,000 every pay period at the library. So the thought was the first 10 would be the first pay period, the next 2 10s would be the next, and basically it's 6 weeks of time to figure out what went on. Unfortunately, that time wasn't particularly well used to figure out what went on. So in your documents here tonight, I've brought you the first attempt at the budget. This was a budget that was presented at that first meeting I was at, and probably the first thing that's remarkable about it is nowhere does it actually show the total at the bottom of revenue versus expenses to see if the budget balances. And if you peek into it, you'll see that the budget was actually proposed to be almost $10,000 short from what the income was to expenses. So the library had budgeted to lose $10,000 this year, which isn't very normal for the way you do budgeting. Typically, we would look for a budget to be balanced, so your income would match what you're intending to spend. So we discussed that for a while, and I kind of delivered the message that balanced budgets are things that municipal councils look at. We don't look at budgets that say we're going to lose $10,000 a year. They said that they hadn't felt comfortable asking for an increase from council, so we talked about the idea that if a group can justify an increase, they're certainly welcome to ask for an increase. Council ultimately would have to approve that, but given inflation and such, asking for no increase year over year would actually mean a cut to library services, because everything costs more now than it used to. So if they didn't ask for a 3 or 4% increase, it would be kind of detrimental to them. So they talked about that a bit. The town of Swan River has also sent a letter to the library. And it's a very clear letter. It indicates they've given the $20,000, and then it lays out a series of questions. And it indicates that until the questions are answered and the answers voted on by the board and presented to the councils, there will be no more funding from the town of Swan River. And the questions essentially start at, how did you possibly go over budget so much? And end at, how will you make sure this never happens again? And to date, the board of the library has not yet discussed those questions or those answers, nor have they voted on them. So they don't yet have them in a situation to present them back to councils. Having seen the letter, I said that certainly Swan Valley West wanted the same answers, because we would like to know how it happened and how we were going to make sure it didn't happen again. In the second meeting I attended, for some reason, the library board decided I couldn't vote, and that I couldn't be counted as being there, which was also reprehensible, because we are a funder, we do appoint the board. And it's kind of strange to me that we would go down the path of saying that someone isn't really at the meeting even though they're physically sitting there. So that will have to be addressed at some point, but it may be addressed in a broader fashion. That night we took a more in-depth look at the budget, so you'll see you also have the latest budget from the board. That's the result of that evening. There was a budget in between here where they actually took money out of, they have a GIC, it looks like a little bit of reserve funds of some sort. That was included as income. It was a mess. So after much work, this budget requests a 4% increase to library funding, and then carries on to essentially say that payroll will be $165,000 plus another $15,000 of CPP, EI, and benefits. Currently, the library is spending more than $5,000 a month above budget on payroll. So these numbers extracted to the 12-month period, and each month so far this year, they've spent $5,000 more than they should have on payroll, which has been a very lengthy question at those board meetings of how exactly that's happening. From the people that are on the board now, and obviously there's been some turnover between the last election and now, and some of the community reps changed a year or two ago. They indicate the first time they knew that they lost $37,000 last year was 3 days after Swan Valley West had provided the $10,000 of emergency funding, which is, again, unfortunate. The board, you would assume, would know that detail at least at the time the funding was being asked for, but the board also indicates they had nothing to do with asking for the emergency funding. That was done without their knowledge and consent. So practical upshot of this is that the town of Swan River wishes to hold a joint meeting between our council and their council and the members of the library board, that obviously some are represented by council, but the other members as well. And they have requested that meeting be held without the management of the Northwest Regional Library. So it'll be just the board, but not the manager. And that's at a date that was supposed to, the hope was this week. Unfortunately, the library board has said they're unavailable to meet at this time. So the earliest the library board is willing to look at a meeting will be into next week sometime. There's a complication with that. At the end of March, the library had $3,000 left. Since then, they've received the $20,000 from the town, but their monthly spending, as you may recall, is closer to $30,000. So within a day or 2 or 5, the Northwest Regional Library will cease to be able to pay its bills. There's no money left in the account. In fact, we heard today already from a contractor of the library that the library is refusing to issue payment to them, saying they have no money, and that until they get some money, they won't be paying anything. So we don't know how, if that's a widespread issue. So I want to offer some assurance. Neither council is going to leave staff unpaid. However, the board of the library has failed to do any of the things that were asked of it to have more money released. And given the deadline of running out of money probably by the end of this week, and the refusals to meet with council, certainly we don't have a resolution tonight to give them any money. The town of Swan River is meeting tonight discussing the library as well. They have no intention of giving them money. At the second meeting I was at, it got a little heated at times. I've been accused of threatening people, so I'll share the threat with you so you understand exactly what went on. After much discussion, I said, I just don't think you're understanding, because this is measured in days, not weeks or months. You're almost out of money. We have to answer these questions as a board. We have to present this to the councils. And there wasn't a lot of buy-in for that. And I said, so I want to present what's going to happen. Either we're going to do those things, we're going to answer these questions, we're going to come up with a budget, we're going to get it approved and get some money, or the library is going to run out of money. And the library is not going to be able to afford to pay the staff or the hydro bill or anything else, and it's going to close. But don't think for a moment that the councils are going to let the library sit closed. We have no interest in a library sitting there locked up tight. If the board can't do what it needs to do and can't begin functioning, the only solution left to the councils will be to fire the board and fire the management and step in and run the library and appoint a new board and hire a new manager and carry on. One board member threatened to quit over that because they said it was very threatening. I said, it's just simply the reality. If it's not dealt with now, that is the ultimate. And that unfortunately seems to be where we're going, because they won't have money next week to pay bills, if they even have any left this week.
They have never been in a spot like that, ever.
Yep.
They have never run out of money. They have always stuck to budget. But when you say that they've never asked for an increase, that's untrue.
But not this,
There
from
was-
last year to this year, they weren't asking for an increase. They
Because
were
there
intended
was
to ask for the same
increases
amount.
every year in the amount if you look back.
The wages is what, 70%
Well,
of the
but they had to,
expenses,
they
right?
had to up their wages. They were next.
Yeah, well,
They were under.
should do that so
Minimum wage.
councils can budget for that as well.
Well, and a lot of
You
the,
know,
like, they presented a budget, and that budget included those increased wages. But the disconnect seems to have been, nobody ever actually added up how many staff they have. So the number of staff they have times by that dollar per hour equals far more than they put in their budget for how much they needed for staff.
Okay,
And so somewhere along the line, someone should have said, the board or the management, probably both, this is unsustainable. We can't pay $30,000 extra a year on wages without putting it in the budget.
they have on there on that January to March, $15,000 insurance, something to do with insurance
Yes.
payment, or not insurance payment, what it,
So there was a flood at the library last summer, and there seems to have been mass confusion on the library board of how insurance claims work. So the repairs should be billed directly to the insurance company, but the library indicated to all the contractors to bill them directly, and was paying all the contractors directly, and hoping that someday the insurance company might reimburse them, which wasn't happening because they weren't necessarily submitting the information on time.
has it happened yet?
The information has now been submitted, and some of the money has been recovered. The rest will come.
Oh,
But there seemed to be massive confusion on how to actually handle an insurance claim. And from near as I could tell, that only accounts for a maximum of $30,000. And my understanding is they should have had around $100,000 on the 1st of January in their bank account, but they did not. And they've just,
because of the insurance and because of wages that weren't
Yes.
budgeted properly and.
so it's quite messy. After we had the discussion about what would happen, remarkably then, a bag was opened and a new book was brought out. And that book contained a whole bunch of information that hadn't been shared with the board to that point. So the second half of that meeting was spent reviewing information that only some board members had known, not all of them, which made it a very difficult meeting as well. Certainly there's been some discussion that perhaps the board is divided, that there's a group of 3 people and there's a group of the other 3 people, which is not helping anything at the library. There's certainly attending, I've only been to 2 meetings, but I certainly got the strong impression that no one that was a member of council was welcome to ask questions about what was going on. The question that was, about what happened and how we're going to fix it, the only discussion was had that, after the budget's passed and we have some money, we'll figure out a way to fix it. But probably the time to figure out how to fix it is before the budget's passed.
Well, if you start in the hole, we hit another tough year.
Any question or discussion on the library stuff? We don't have anything to bring to you tonight, and they unfortunately didn't attend tonight, so they can't answer anything directly.
So when you say we're not gonna give them any more money, but we're still gonna pay the wages?
They, as a board, have to determine what they're going to do. I understand that some board members had a meeting on Monday, but that other board members weren't invited. So that, again, is a difficulty that the library faces. If they're having a board meeting where not everyone comes together. We won't leave people in a situation where they have worked hours and don't get paid. Certainly the municipalities, I think, will both come good for that if they can't issue paychecks. But I don't think we're going to give them any money and just hope for the best. We're going to need to.
It's not even just that. The two partners pay so much, but there's also a grant. If the 2 partners don't pay, they also don't get the grant, which is another.
Well, so that's not entirely
Okay.
true. The grant is provided one way or the other from Public Library Services if they file the required paperwork,
Because that's
which
what they should actually have in place already. That would be.
the paperwork was due at the end of January, but some paperwork was filed, but the paperwork doesn't appear to be accurate. The numbers on what was sent to the government don't match the numbers that are coming out of QuickBooks, and they also don't match the numbers that were provided to the board of the budget.
$68,000.
Well, from last year, so the total spending from last year, because they have to provide that to the government. to get their next grant for this year.
Oh, okay.
They're also required under the Act to provide their budget by the 15th of January, which obviously they haven't been able to.
So is this a relatively new board, or are they just making
Yes.
mistakes, or what?
I spoke to some prior board members to try and get a feeling for what's happened. How could this have gone so wrong? Unfortunately, their answers I can't share until we're in camera.
Okay.
But certainly we can talk about a few more minutes then if you want to hear what they said. If there's nothing else there, we'll move to 10.2. This is a letter that was received from the RM of Pipestone. So they're quite concerned about Manitoba Agriculture Service Center offices being closed throughout Manitoba. They indicate only 10 service offices seem to be happening on a go-forward basis. And they have created a petition, and it was circulated to us. The question, does council want to do anything with it? The petition, obviously, like individuals can sign it, they're petitioning the Manitoba government to bring those offices back in the locations where they were closed. I believe my understanding is the Swan River office is one of the 10 that remain open, is it not? Yes. But obviously in a lot of communities in the south, those offices closed and have not reopened. So what is the will of council on this? Do you want to do anything with it, or just take it as information tonight, or another option?
So what are they asking?
They're asking essentially that we circulate this petition. They're due back May 8th.
So they're making people travel farther to go to these offices.
Yes.
Or do it over the phone.
Oh, yeah, or internet.
Are they talking about closing Swan?
Not that we've heard. I think it relates to some smaller offices. Swan River's kind of a hub office.
Sort of like the federal employees, they want to stay home and work.
So my suggestion would be, we can't sign this as a municipality, but certainly this could be printed out if anyone here wants to sign it. If you want to circulate it, some people, you could do that. It needs to get back there by the deadlines indicated. But is it all right if we don't bring any resolution on this tonight? Because I'm not so sure there's anything for us to.
Cutting our own throat, maybe.
Well, there's that, but we're all in this together. 10.3, is there something we need to do for this, or is this just information?
Which?
The insurance
Oh,
policy?
no, it's just information.
Okay, so the insurance policy is here again. I think we had it last meeting as well, but that's just the schedule of exactly what the insurance is costing this year. Nearly $177,000.
Manito Richter,
Oh.
chunk cake.
Always have been, yeah.
I was looking at the fire extinguishers, because we just did all of them. And you look at the list of fire extinguishers in the rink compared to any other building, and it shows up there too. It's just such a massive building with so much in it that it just costs, everything costs more. I'll move to 10.3, fire protection agreement. We've discussed this a little bit. It's here tonight for us to approve it and put a couple numbers into the agreement. So previous, the arm of Livingston visited us and we discussed for a while. We decided on an annual fee of $2,500, but we've never actually voted on that. So as far as decision goes, tonight will be decision time on that. And we also looked at the old agreement for what the rates for hourly firefighting. In Saskatchewan, the homeowner or property owner is responsible for paying the hourly rates. So this is guaranteed money. If they didn't pay it, it would be placed on their taxes. Livingston would pay it to us and then extract it out of them through their tax process. So the $2,500 obviously is shared amongst the ratepayers and as a retainer. The other hourlies was recommended to be
1,500.
$1,500 for the first hour and $1,000 per hour after that.
Yeah.
What's the feeling
Is
of council on
that
those
in line
numbers?
with, is that in line with other,
Fairly
fire
much so.
departments or-
Probably lower than the town of Swan River, but they tend to be kind of high.
we don't have the overhead they got.
No. And certainly we look at what we pay the men, or I should say the firefighters, because there's some ladies on the fire department as well. it would more than cover the wages, and then the rest of it's for the fuel and the wear and tear on the trucks and such. Because obviously we drive the truck, it's gonna use some time on it, but typically we don't wear fire trucks out, they get too old.
Most of them people would have insurance.
They do.
They get paid back by the insurance company.
In Saskatchewan, it's very common to hold fire insurance that pays for the fire department, whereas in Manitoba, that's not really
But
a
they
thing.
would get reimbursed.
Right.
Well, if we're cheaper than Swan, I guess we're doing okay.
Okay. I'm just going to add in here those numbers before we vote on this. Yes. And whereas, sorry.
They're not liable for any loss of equipment or anything.
No, if we removed the fire truck while we were there, that would be our insurance would have to cover it.
Because I was talking to a couple of retired firefighters, and they said the reason it was so high before is you lose a couple nozzles, and that $2,500 is gone pretty quick.
For sure. The resolution. Whereas the Municipality of Livingston wishes to enter into an agreement with the Municipality of Swan Valley West for fire protection services, and whereas an agreement has been drafted for signing, whereas the municipality proposes a $2,500 annual fee with hourly fees of $1,500 for the first hour and $1,000 for each hour thereafter. Therefore, be it resolved, the Municipality of Swan Valley West approve the agreement for signing and forward to the rural Municipality of Livingston for approval and signing. Is there a mover? Councillor Neely, someone to second the resolution. Councillor Zbirun. Any further discussion on that or those amounts? Do we have second thoughts on the amounts? Or are we good with leaving it like that?
Is this a...
Go ahead.
Is this a one-year agreement? We do this annually? Or is this just, it's in
We haven't had an
forever?
agreement with them because they didn't pay the last
Yeah, but
one.
with this, we have this agreement that states till either party wants to change it, right?
Usually, yeah.
Yeah, so the agreement states it remains in force until terminated by either party on 3 months written notice. So it continues until someone cancels it. Or,
Or
Amend
in
it.
theory, would say we want to amend it.
Negotiate.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Hearing nothing, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That's carried. Hall roads, 10-4. Last meeting, council received a copy of this same Hall road list that's attached again tonight. The homework we all had was to determine if there was additional roads that needed to be added to this before we pass this as the Hall road list for this year. The intention here is that what we pass tonight, staff will stick to. So we're going to instruct our staff that what's on this list is a Hall road. If it's not on the list, it's not a Hall road and they pay full rate. So we're trying to avoid the one-off situation that we've had before where people come to us for several meetings after one road at a time. So everybody's kind of had a chance to look at it. Is there anything we should be adding or removing from the list?
Where's the greenhouse one?
That would be
216.
216?
Yes.
Is it on the 100% one? Or the 50%?
West of Highway 10 and east of 580.
That's the Copeland greenhouse?
Oh, that green.
Because that should be on there.
That'd be 200.
Well, that should be
wouldn't
on
it?
there.
No, 202.
Because that's, we haul past there
So
constantly.
202 is on the, this is 202.
I know, but I don't see it on here.
Duquesne Pit.
Do you see it?
20, right in the middle. 202 north,
But that's on the 50/50 one.
west.
So are you suggesting it should be 100%?
Well, it should be, because how can these ones be on that and that one not when it's us doing all the hauling by it? There's not much farming going on out there, and the farming that is going on out there is the Saskatchewan side.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want a 100% of 500 feet at the greenhouse, essentially? Is that
Well,
the intention, or?
That's what it really should be,
I just want to make sure that what we write down is what you mean.
yeah,
Is there other places on that road, or is it just at the greenhouse? you
just
want
at the greenhouse.
it? Alright, so 100%.
Well, there's two, like, 'cause there's
Which,
2 homes there, one on each side.
Which road goes past the well?
That is that should be on, that's on
That
the
should be,
50% one, I think.
That should be 100. No?
So you're
Hadn't
wanting
been
the portion right at the well.
Well, I mean, there's that bad corner there, just down from like
He
south
means
of it.
just before the tracks.
And there's people living around there, and there's lots of people hauling water there steady. Like in Sammy's too, like not, you know.
I'm
half
not
the-
disagreeing, I'm just trying to make sure I get where you're wanting it
Yeah.
put.
Well, I mean, the people that live along that road too are getting dusted
It's
and grayed
a
out, eh?
short stretch there. It's,
Can
Do
we
I
do it?
mention names?
Can we do a route down Railway, the gravel coming out of Bonito,
Yeah.
and then north to 200?
Yeah.
that's
No,
what we
no,
have.
or-
Or the other way.
So,
I don't.
South.
Sorry,
No,
but I
no.
don't think we're doing
I don't think it's on.
50% on Railway, and you get an argument of one neighbor pays, one neighbor doesn't. If we just do that run right
Yeah.
through there,
Well,
at
the
100%.
railway, I'm not arguing about it. It's that road that heads from railway to the highway, to the hydro station there.
Yeah, going north.
Yeah.
That's-
There's people that live along there that just get dusted out, like,
Going to the
because,
well by the hydro plant.
yeah, there's our well there, there's
were on the 50 list.
the other well there, and they're hauling steady there.
172.
Okay, so that's Road 172,
Uh-huh.
and we're doing 100%,
Uh-uh.
50%?
Oh, you're saying you're paying, I don't know, it's always been, it's,
But we're just doing spot,
in the
like,
last,
we're just,
it's just that spot in the last couple of years, it's been 50%.
yeah.
It's just this corner spot, but
That corner should be 100%.
Yeah, this one goes from 201 to 202.
That
Then you
stop
go
sign
around.
there at that,
Mhm.
you know where I'm talking about, eh?
The junction in between Railway and the highway.
No,
There?
north of that. Where Bueller's.
Where
corner.
Wheeler's,
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
In between.
That should be 100, that's the bad corner.
Okay, so how much of the corner are you wanting done? Just the part on 172, or are you wanting the cross too, or what are we doing?
You'd have to do a cross.
Cross, both ways, I think, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, how
Or
long
how
do you
many,
want
how
to do it?
50, 500 feet or whatever it is, eh? Or whatever we do.
So are you trying 1,000 feet on each road or 500 feet on each road?
Well, 500 would work to the west,
Yeah,
but I don't know if you'd get 500 covered to the east.
to the east.
isn't that this one?
I think 500 each way, eh?
Oh, that's-
Quite a jaunt up to the one to the east, I think, though.
Yeah.
Can we do something where we go a couple hundred feet past the laneways? Because that would shorten the west and lengthen the east, probably.
Yeah, that's right.
So let's kind of throw this out here, because, you know, here to cause discussion. So what about anybody else that has a corner that says the corner is really dusty and someone lives near it? Are we going to, like, how are we deciding to do this corner and not the other ones?
Because of the well traffic, I think.
Yeah.
And it's heavy traffic coming from railway out.
Okay, so what about any road that has heavy traffic on it? Are we doing all the haul roads at 100%? Because ultimately, like, everything else on this list has really heavy traffic too, which is why we pay 50%.
But I think the only reason we're doing this one is because of our wells on that road.
So what when our gravel pits on a road? I'm just trying to play devil's
That's
advocate,
the
because
one I was
ultimately we have to
talking
be able to explain to people, why do we make this decision? Why does this person not pay anything, and this person pays half, and that person pays the full amount? I don't profess to know, I'm not trying to tell you what to decide. I'm just saying, make sure you think about this, because how do you explain that that person, because they live near a water well?
Does this
It's
have to be
100%
decided tonight?
yep.
It would be good.
I see them hauling
We've
stuff
had
there
people
tonight.
coming in
Where
steady
they
all
get
day,
the tank
carrying
from
up
it.
potatoes.
Staff indicates they've had people all day wanting to pay, and some of them are curious of exactly this. So it needs some sort of.
So what are you suggesting, just do that 50% then?
Well, I'm with Byron on this one. Like, so we're going to pay on Road 200, 100%, 1,000 feet from the stop sign. That's because it's our gravel pit there, right? So this is our well. It's something we're directly tied to. They're paying 100% here, I see, by the dump road. 100%.
The thing is,
There's-
if our well wasn't there, that there'd probably be a third of the traffic on that road.
So I'm
I
still
know
not.
it doesn't help anything.
Well, I'm not yet, like, if I have to defend that to a ratepayer, they come in and they wanna yell at me about it, they say, so why do they get free there, but on my road that 50 grain trailers go by a day, do I have to pay half?
Because our well isn't on your road. I don't know.
I- but-
I don't know what to tell you, Bill.
I just, you know, we're trying to look for fairness, because obviously I'd love to pay for it all, but ultimately it's $1 a foot. So the more we pay for, the more we're asking every resident of the municipality to pay for those particular roads. We have to make sure there's some reasoning behind why we would do 100% there and only 50% for others.
But that corner is really, really bad because the viewer lives right on the corner, and if you're coming from the west heading east, you have a hard time. Unless you're looking before the yard to see if anybody's coming, you're not going to see them. I mean,
So
I seen somebody get killed at that corner, so I'm a little touchy on that one.
Which corner is that, where is the
No, the further
The
north.
next corner,
For the next corner.
North.
right close to the well.
let's come back to that in a second. You were talking about Railway Avenue.
Well, I got-
Typically right now it is,
50%.
And they've been
Yes.
happy with that.
No, there's been meetings where they haven't been happy because this guy pays and this guy doesn't. So then he says, I'm wasting my money because the dust from in front of his house comes into my house. And there's no difference if you look at railway or government road allowance, what's the difference between them and Durban or Kenville, where we're doing there? It's gravel and it's fairly dense population. You can't get one guy to pay and the other guy doesn't. Government road allowance as well, you're going past the cemetery and stuff in there. So,
So where in Durban are they actually putting dust control down? Because I've never seen it go down in Durban. Just so you know.
don't have a clue, but
They
it says
were-
100% right there.
Yeah, but they don't put any down there.
Pavement is the main
They
drag.
don't put any down. They used to sometimes do the back alley here and there, but they haven't put down there for years. That I know of.
okay, so ultimately, so we get done the meeting tonight, we need to endeavor to have some decision. Is Railway Avenue an easier question? That's been 50% of 500 feet. At one time they got along maybe a little better than they do now as far as who was paying and who wasn't. Do we wish to make a change to the 50% on Railway Avenue just outside of Benito?
You mean east of Scoton's Garage?
Yes, right along
Yeah,
the
you
tracks
go
there.
from the jog there in the road up to the stop sign or yield, whatever's down there. Up to the next corner.
Go around the Vanmore Bruce. That's
So,
right
yeah,
to the
right
corner
down there, that
where
run.
Mrs. Terry used to live.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then turn to go to the well. At the end.
It's a dead end there.
The well. Alpine.
Yeah, they go south north there.
Yeah.
Railroad tracks right there. That's why they call it
Councillor Burick, what
railway.
say you on Railway Avenue?
I'm not familiar with that very much, but I'd say 100% the arms.
Councillor Blosha?
Well, it's not semi-traffic, it's not hauling gravel traffic. I don't
It's
know.
residential.
Fairly heavy residential
Yeah,
presence there, right?
it's in town.
And
Call it town
and
limits.
businesses.
Town limits, eh? Town limits.
Ironically,
It's
no.
not town limits.
It isn't.
No, there's a good portion of Benito that's outside of town, but
Which
it's,
way from Stoughton's Garage, isn't it? East?
Yeah.
yeah, you're going
When you
east.
hit the, when
And
the
that-
pavement ends, that's
Yeah.
where it ends.
Yeah. But it is fairly dense right to the end.
That's what I thought.
Councillor McGregor, your thoughts on Railway Avenue?
I'd say we do it all.
Okay, so I've heard 3 saying we should do it all. 3 we have, well, Councillor Bosch I think was kind of leaning towards no. Councillor Zbirun, Councillor Neely, your thoughts?
We're doing government road allowance, 100%.
We are.
Well, you pretty well gotta do Railway Avenue too then.
Okay, so I think I
That would be
see,
my, if,
so that Railway Avenue will do 100% is what I'm sort of reading in the room here. So let's go back to the question of Road 1782. that intersection. Right now, 172,
It's 50.
my read of that is a 50% area. So are we leaving it 50% or are we changing it to 100%? With,
That's where the big traffic is.
And how many,
That's where the big trucks are.
Yeah.
how
So,
many houses along there?
one,
One house.
well, two, I guess there's somebody lives across the road now. So there's
Almost
two
right.
houses in the,
Almost
si-
right.
they're right across from each other, so it's not like 500 feet will do it.
500 feet to
Yeah.
might you pay the whole payment.
And it's been done 50/50 before?
50, it just started 50/50 because they started asking about it because of all the heavy traffic.
It was never
And
done
the
before.
heavy traffic was because
year
of the
it was
well
done 50/50.
and the egg center at
But
the,
they've never had dust control before?
Yes, last year was the first year, and
At 50/50.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, well, you think we should change it?
So we're not doing the whole road, right? We're just doing,
500 feet, you said.
we're going to set the number
It's
of
gonna
feet
cost
before we're
a-
done tonight.
it's gonna
So we're not
cost
going to scale
over
right from this.
$275, right?
So outside of this discussion, typically, the best way to do these things is to set policy. So what we're doing tonight, and you can see the difficulty with it, is one of us. We're taking individual situations a bunch of times and trying to figure them out. Ultimately, what we should do as a council is say that this is our policy and it applies universally. So, if we're going to start doing intersections because of high traffic, we should have a policy that says that any intersection that has a certain amount of traffic at it gets done or doesn't get done, rather than one-ofs, because this is where it will open up a can of worms, because I practically guarantee when we're done this tonight, at our next meeting, we'll have 10 to 20 requests from ratepayers saying, why not me? And we're going to have a very hard time answering them how we made these decisions based on everybody being equal.
do you think if it stayed 50/50, we still wouldn't have them people coming and wanting?
Typically, what we've seen in the past, the requests is for people that aren't in a 50/50 zone, saying they should be. It's very rare that people are asking for 100% coverage. They're usually looking for the half-price coverage.
Well, we have very few 100%, so. I mean, even 216, right? Those are all 50/50. And that's one of
But
the
the
heavier
heaviest
haul
one,
roads there is. Grain and gravel. Well, 218.
It's gonna be pretty expensive for that corner there, because like I said, you live right in the corner, they're gonna have to do from that corner heading north for 500 feet, and from that corner heading west for 500 feet to get any justification out of the,
But you gotta stop at that stop sign there, so how much dust is that gonna,
well,
because the stop sign's here, so,
supposed to stop at the stop sign.
well, you gotta stop there.
Well, yeah, that's true, yeah.
It's not that where you're
So
talking
you
about
think
here.
50/50 then?
It was 50/50 before,
In front of
but
the-
then you might have to move the other one that I said, one back to 50/50.
oh, I'm going to ask you that question yet too.
Well, I just said because most
Yeah.
of the traffic there, that's why I thought, but
Well, leave it at 50/50 then and see what happens.
then leave the other one at
Okay, so I want
50/50
to
too.
clarify 172. We have 201 to 202, but what I don't see on the list is the other part. So do you want that other 500 feet to be at 50/50 as an option for the homeowner?
Yeah.
Okay. So 50/50, I'm just going to make notes of whose house it is and we will have staff sort out the numbers. And so then the Lynn's plants, that is staying at 50/50, is that the agreement of everybody? So I'm going to, that's road 202, which is already on the list at 50/50, so I'm going to strike that off here completely on my change list. So the changes I now see is 100% of Railway Avenue instead of 50/50, and the justification there is because it's a residential neighborhood like Durbin, Kenville, and the Ashton Benito. Is that what we're saying as a council?
Yeah.
I would say.
And then we're going to do 50/50 at the road number to be determined for the east-west when we already have the north-south part, right? Is there any other changes we're making to this list? Councillor Burick.
I've got one. 218, from number 10 east to the Pioneer Road,
Okay,
railroad crossing, roughly 1,200 feet.
okay.
Pioneer pays the bill. They used to. What happened the last 4 years?
Yeah, they still
Pioneer
pay,
did pay.
they still pay their bill, yeah.
Okay. And 2 applications
And
a
if it
year.
has to be redone, we
2
do a little bit.
applications a year.
Okay,
That's
so-
not on here though.
And I believe we,
But they pay, do they pay 100%?
no,
They pay
Yes,
50?
They pay 100%.
no, I believe they pay 50.
No, who paid the other 50?
It's on here
Resident?
as 50.
It's not on here, where is
It's
it?
not on here.
It's not on here.
218?
That's
218,
west of,
218,
that's west of Highway
This
10.
is
West of
east of
number.
Highway 10.
This is east.
Yeah, well, as far as I know, that Pioneer has always paid their bill.
Yeah, but they pay the whole shot,
Yeah.
They used to, yeah.
not 50/50.
And one year we had to do it a little bit earlier because it needed to be done, so we got,
Got somebody
say,
local.
someone local to do it so that it would get done, but they
Yeah.
pay their
So
bill.
I'm having trouble following. Are we wanting them to pay 100% or are we
100%.
wanting them to pay 50%?
100%.
So we're gonna leave it as is then? We're not
It's
making
not on
changes to
here.
that?
It's not on here, is it?
It's not on here as a
No.
50%. Anything that's not on here, they pay 100%. So your intention is that Pioneer is paying 100% from the highway
To the
east
railroad
to their
crossing.
access?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay.
they have in the past.
1,200 feet roughly.
Okay. Any other changes to the list of the 50/50 ones? Or any other suggestions of somebody that gets it for free? One final question before we move on here. What is the will of council? Because I guarantee tomorrow somebody will come into the office and suggest that they were left out and should be reconsidered. Does council wish to entertain at our next meeting any of those, or are we going to say this list is set in stone for this year and it is not changing?
Forget somebody what to do.
Doesn't matter what you decide, that's what you're all here for. We just have to tell the staff something tonight so they have the answer tomorrow. If someone says, this isn't fair, I should be 50/50, do the staff say, we're sorry, that's how it is this year? Or do the staff say, council will consider your request?
I think we should consider it.
Okay?
I know it drags it out, right? But we've got our set of what we've agreed upon here, but we can't think of every intersection or everybody's unique circumstance. Maybe somebody has a really good valid reason why they should be on it and we're not thinking of it.
Okay, so we'll advise staff this is our list. We feel this is complete. However, if someone feels strongly, they are welcome to send a written request to council for review. Is that agreeable to the group?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Speaking of dust control, before
Yes.
you pass it, it doesn't have a due date in the paper.
We decided last meeting there was no due date,
Now, how can you not have a due date when it says prior to application?
because you can pay for it just before it's applied.
How do you know?
A
Say,
lot of
so
people-
it comes June 1st and you're gonna pay June 1st? Can't do that.
Well, not really June 1st, May 30th.
I thought we said May 15th.
Well, what we had discussed was that when we actually knew when they were coming,
Right.
we would publish that they will be here this date, so it has to be done before
Right.
then. So
Okay,
we
well,
wanted to
as long
avoid
as,
what happened where we had
as
an
long
arbitrary
as,
date.
as long as there's a date saying like, cause right now it's
Because
out in the.
Last year,
open.
Carrie, there was a due date of May 10th and they didn't get applied till June.
Because of the weather.
Oh, it was perfectly good.
Because they were here
Well-
to do it then and it was raining. Anyway, whatever.
Make
It's
them move
no,
your chairs apart. Okay,
Anyway.
so, I think the anticipation is that the due date is likely the 1st of June, but staff will firm that up with the application folks. And I believe staff are still firming up the quotes for application because we have not yet seen the quotes come back that we need to approve for who is applying this stuff. Whereas the municipality has designated various roads in the municipality's Swan Valley West as haul roads, and has reviewed the list for the current year, therefore be it resolved that the list attached hereto is scheduled to be approved with changes. With the changes discussed. And be it further resolved, the municipality will offer dust control application on these roads on a 50/50 cost share basis. Is there a mover for that? Councillor Burick, and a seconder. Councillor Kushniryk. Any further discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? That is carried. 10.5. Council can see, but it's not publicly released, an invoice for a Class 1 medical. The question has arisen, do we or do we not pay for staff who have to have a medical for a Class 1 license? What is the will of council? My understanding is the proposed union contract provides a premium for those that have Class 1 licenses. I would suggest that premium covers the cost of them having a medical, but it's council's decision.
Nobody paid for mine when I was driving school bus. I paid for
I've
my
never
own.
seen a bill like that come to the table before.
Okay, so is it fine by everybody? We will simply move on past this without a resolution, and staff will indicate to the affected employee that council does not make those payments. And we will consider that somewhat a policy, so you probably won't get that question again unless someone brings it up. 10.6, Public Utilities Board, Order 4923. So this is very good news. We've discussed many times at the table what to do about the Bonito water rates. We did file an application with the Public Utilities Board to vary their interim order, 9322. So that order provided for, depending on how you did your math, a 400% increase in water rates in the LUD of Bonito. So this new order, it's very lengthy. I won't read the 12 pages of it. Essentially, what it provides for is about a 20% increase instead of a 400% increase. It cuts dramatically those rates that were interim approval that we were concerned we wouldn't be able to support at hearing. It does leave a deficit rider of $2.54 per 1,000 gallons. So ultimately, the price of water goes from approximately $27 per 1,000 to, are we closer to $8.50, I believe, if my math is right on that. So it brings it down from 27 to about $8.50, which is higher than it was. We have the 20% in there. We're also required to file by November our final rate application, which will give us a little bit of time to crunch those numbers and make sure 20% is accurate. We can vary that to higher if we need to. We're going to look again at the cost of operation. We're going to look at the final numbers from 2022 to make sure we're accurate on what we're proposing, and then we're going to file that. I have a resolution here that's optional to accept this. Does council want to pass a resolution on it? We're not required to by the board, but if you wanted in the minutes that this happened, we could pass the resolution. Does anybody want to do that? Not seeing any hands. Was that a hand?
No,
Okay.
it's mandatory.
Yes.
We've learned that.
And I can further update on the water situation that we face in Bonito. Thankfully, it's a billing issue, not a water quality issue. So the water bills are now printed for January, February, March. The water bills in those months obviously have the newer higher rates because these rates aren't effective until April 1st. So for those months, people have to pay the higher rates. But there were substantial irregularities in meter readings. So we have spent a lot of time, and by we I don't mean me, I mean Councillor Kushniryk, who we assigned the task, going through the meter readings. Several of them were estimates in the past periods instead of actual reads. What has happened is some of those bills were artificially low when the rates were lower. Then when the rates were higher, the bills caught up. So say, for example, you used 1,000 gallons every month. Maybe you were only billed for half of it originally, and now all the water you used before has been put onto the higher rates. So he devised a formula that took the actual readings and divided out your usage by them and figured out how much of it should have been billed at the lower rates and how much was appropriate to bill at higher rates. So for each invoice, there's also an adjustment amount that discounts some of the water paid at the higher rates to the lower rate you should have paid when you actually used it. So there will be a letter accompanying each bill that tries to explain this in a way that's much clearer than I've done tonight, that says this is what your bill was, this is the adjustment amount, this is the total amount you actually owe, and then goes on to indicate what the new rates are starting April 1st. Those bills are hopefully going to be in the mail yet this week. Any questions on that?
So when this is all done and everything's settled, they're gonna be in the black and the red? Nobody's gonna have to take money out of the reserves at the end of the year to...
The goal is always to have it close to break even with putting a little bit into reserves. And obviously reserves have been depleted, so rather than a little bit, we probably need to put
No,
a
but I mean,
sizable
taking
amount
out of
in.
the reserve and putting it into the utility fund to even things up, that's not gonna happen. It's gonna be...
No, we paid the 100,000 from the LED.
Yeah.
That should be it.
Okay.
We won't be doing any more grants or anything.
And we may, the 20% may be low, like we may need to be at 25 to 30%. We'll determine that, and we'll come back here yet before we finalize that application. But we need to try and figure out what the right amount is. And there's a formula we're gonna go through. We're just gonna put all the numbers in, we'll come to council and see if everybody feels that's appropriate. And we'll move on with it. Anything else on the Public Utilities Board? We'll go to 10.7, Community Garage Sale in Bonito. So this was a request that was received by the LED committee. They haven't had a chance to meet, but the 3 committee members have discussed it. They asked that we consider it tonight so that it wouldn't affect the timelines. It's been proposed that there be a community garage sale day in Benito. So they're asking that we declare community garage sale day to be June 3rd, and more specifically to our purposes, that we provide picnic tables to the organizers because they wish to have a picnic barbecue type thing in conjunction with that to bring some people to Benito. So the declaration is free. The picnic tables obviously will cost some staff time to move them there and staff time to take them back. What's the will of council? Do you wish to declare a garage sale day and move some picnic tables?
The councillor from that area can help do.
Yeah, they live right beside it.
It's a good time to welcome the ones from further away. You come to town.
Well, five.
Well, there you go.
So the resolution be resolved that Swan Valley West declare June 3rd community garage sale day in Benito and provide support of picnic tables to the organizers. Is there a mover? Councillor Kushniryk. Someone to second the resolution.
Come on, you can There you go.
Councillor Zbirun gets to second that. Any discussion on the picnic tables or the garage sale day? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favor? It's carried.
Did we miss something, the landfill update?
Oh, yes, let's go to that. 10-7, landfill update. So this is no resolution, there's some photos here. So we discussed some time ago that we were going to do the covering in Benito and push up and do all that. That has now been done. This is post-cover photos. So just a couple shots there of where the pit is at right now, what would be the floating garbage patch in the middle, and then the actual area that was covered. You can see the wood chips there covering some of the material. So that's what that is, and then the first picture is after the cover was done. That's the garbage that was deposited there the first week post-cover. I believe that was just a Friday run of garbage. Gives you some idea, I thought, of how much garbage
That was
was up.
what we hired Jason to do.
That's correct, yeah. So that's done. There will be obviously a continuing discussion about the pond, because that's an awful lot of water in there, and we're likely going down the path of being forced to do something to evaporate the water. But that's for another night to figure out.
Well, he didn't do that part, he just covered with that fill we got from Shrewsbury.
Yeah. And the rest, like that middle shot, that appears to mostly be floating debris in
Yeah,
a pond, which will have to be dealt with. 10-9, house versus trees. So we have a request from ratepayer. Before the meeting, council was advised the name of the ratepayer. We decided to move this out of in-camera to the public discussion for much the same reasons as the haul roads. We're trying to set policy here, not one-ofs. So I asked council, please not mention the name of the ratepayer. You all know what it is. Ultimately, they have purchased a house to be moved. There's a route map provided to you, and there's also photos of the trees that the good Lord placed in the way of the house. So their request is that we do some brushing. Now, a couple folks have been out and looked at this. To my knowledge, no one has yet measured the actual right-of-way. But some of those trees are likely in the right-of-way, but probably not a lot of them. It's here tonight for us to discuss, to make a plan. My understanding is that typically when trees grow in our right-of-way, are in the way, it is our responsibility to remove said trees if they're impeding the progress of the world for farm headers or, in this case, a house. However, we have a long waiting list for that because unfortunately we haven't been able to get everywhere and murder all the trees that wanted to be murdered as quickly as we would like. So the issues at play here is, do we go and murder any trees that are in our right-of-way sooner rather than later, even though other people have been waiting longer? If we're not willing to bump this up the waiting list, do we grant permission for the ratepayer to do it themselves? They have indicated that they would possibly do it, but they don't have the equipment. They also indicated they'd be willing to use our equipment to do it with their labor, which would bring up a whole bunch of issues.
What would we give him to do this with?
They also,
Carter?
well, they were suggesting just our brush head.
Those are pretty big trees.
Yeah, almost
They're
Those
like
are
a
very
color
big
bunch
trees.
there.
Yeah.
Those are not just brushing, that's,
And that's solid bush on the left side, not just a row of trees.
I know this fella has his own cat.
You make a mess with it.
Pardon
So,
You make a mess with the
Go on.
bulldozer in there.
the timeline here for the house to move is approximately 6 to 8 weeks from tonight. They have to take the house down that road. So we need something from council to decide what we're doing. Obviously measuring this, we're gonna have to, now the snow is gone, we'll take a tape measure out, we'll measure the 66 feet to see exactly what is ours and what is not, but what does council wish to do?
How far do you have to clear it for? Like, how far do they have to clear it? What's the
Oh.
distance?
No more
If
than a
it's in
mile.
the bottom of our ditch,
A
it's
mile.
our property, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
A mile?
No.
This is, would be a half mile of trees? How
a
long
little
is
farther
it?
down,
I
you're
think
gonna have to take it
between
on
a quarter
both
and a half,
sides.
I think.
Look at that picture, you get down there,
Yeah, you get further down, then you
further
approach
down, you're
more.
gonna have to do both sides.
The hydro poles are in the way on the east side. So there's a whole nother
The west
problem there.
Now, I did speak to the gentleman, and he indicated that his mover had been to this site and said that because the hydro poles were there, they would have to move over a little bit, making the trees on the other side more of an issue.
But you get halfway down, you gotta take bush out on both sides.
So I think the ultimate question, we can agree on the fact that the trees are growing on our property, they're our problem. What is the feeling of council on the fact that this request is newer than a lot of other requests that are pending from people that need similar service from us and have not received it? Do we do somebody out of order, or do we say, I'm sorry, but we have other people who asked first? We need to be able to answer that.
Other people maybe have other access to get where they wanna go. This person doesn't have any access, it's a one way.
And
One road in, one road out. That's-
from what I gather, we have prioritized in the past. So if you have someone who absolutely can't get to a piece of land, we go there first, as compared to people that are maybe driving around or having to use a neighbor's field or something to get there. So there would be some past history of us going to a place where there's no other option, ahead of going to places that were desirable, but maybe there was another way in.
The only option he's got to build a house on the spot instead of moving it in,
Okay?
you know, like.
So is the will of council, we will instruct Public Works that first we'll measure, we'll figure out which trees are ours, but then ultimately we will find a way to make this happen before the house moves? And if that means we hire a contractor, is council okay with
They're not
that?
moving a house in, they're moving a house out. They
Oh,
bought
they're-
an old house, they're moving it out.
Yeah,
Just
Oh,
so
they're
you know,
moving
they're
the
not,
house
they're not
out.
moving a house in, down the road into a spot.
Oh.
I want you to know that.
I thought you were going the other way, though.
no, they're leaving with the house. Councillor Burick.
Can you measure it all up and bring it back to next meeting? Like you said 6 to 8 weeks, that's 2 months.
We can do anything your heart desires, as long as
We
council
measure-
agrees on it.
Measure it up and find out what they need and
So
bring it back to
once
council.
that house is moved out of there, nobody's ever gonna benefit from this again,
Right.
because nobody's farming up there.
So the suggestion on the table is that this comes back in 2 weeks' time with measurements and a clear idea of how many trees are ours. Is that agreeable to the group?
Find out what you have to take out.
Find out the
Find out how wide the house is first,
Okay.
44.
44,
44 feet?
well, 40 feet and 2 foot each side.
Yeah, 10 feet in each side, what's the problem? Scratch the paint off.
All right, so I believe we have agreement. This will come back in 2 weeks with measurements and a clear picture of how many trees are affected.
Might have to just take, yeah, we might have to just take some over on that one side there in the ditch.
Okay, we're in agreement on that?
Yep.
Thank you. We will move to 11, correspondence. Swan River Golf and Country Club. A letter is presented to council tonight. This was hand-delivered to me a few days back. We had received previously a form letter that was sent to all businesses looking for donations. This letter is addressed to Swan Valley West. It also came with some explanation. So what's not written down here is that they were wondering if we would be willing to consider cash, but also they suggested that dust control could be a donation to the golf course, because then they wouldn't have to pay for the dust control and ultimately they would have more money. They're holding a fundraiser. 20% of the proceeds of the fundraiser go to the CT scanner fund. The other 80% obviously more for the golf course itself. They're looking for a new clubhouse in future years. Policy-wise, if you look at other facilities like this, Thunderhill Ski Club would be somewhat of a comparable entity. Council has in the past, previous council supported projects at the Thunderhill Ski Club monetarily. So it wouldn't be a departure from what's happened in the past to support a project like this. It's totally the will of council what you wish to do. Do you wish to do anything is the first question, and then we can figure out what.
Dust control's a great idea.
I mean, from the end of their pavement to Route 162,
They
is
don't
that
do
what
the
they're
whole,
talking?
they don't do the whole stretch. They do that one like when you're coming off.
When you're heading west.
Yeah.
You
They
go
do a
past the
little bit.
clubhouse down to.
They do some there, but they also do some on the road
Going
going
on
toward the
162,
crossing.
going toward the Fort Cross.
Yeah.
I've heard dust control from a couple people. Would that be the will of council to donate some dust control to this project? And if so, how much? All of it, some of it, a dollar value of it?
So in the past, they've paid 100% dust control, correct?
I believe that particular road is 100%.
Huh?
Go 50/50 then?
I say 50/50. That's our contract.
They go right to Brian Nimmerker's house. And then they go south,
I don't think they go right to his house.
not all the way.
No,
So,
no, they don't do that stretch.
can someone help me out with road number?
162, did you say, Terry?
162 is the road
North
west of the
south.
golf course.
162 between 210 and 218, but I don't think that quite covers that.
210, yeah, that'll be done. That's already on the list. Because a lot of grain goes down that road. They come in from John Borley, coming open that way, they're going, try to get to the elevator.
210, I don't
Yeah, and they
see
got turning.
on this list at all. So the east-west road does not appear to be on the list.
West of the pavement.
Yeah, it's not on the 50% list that I see. So is the offer then 50% for the dust control they do? Is it a one-time contribution to this?
We could go 500 feet past the pavement. You know, that would be it. With a tee off and stuff.
Where do you mean?
When you go around the curve by Albert Kwan's house,
Mm-hmm.
and then you run out of pavement, finally, right?
Yep, I
The
know
clubhouse
exactly where
is
you
right
mean.
there. Off to the west is where I'm not a golfer, but they tee off over there. And I don't think there is any,
Dust
there's
control.
gravel there, straight north of where they're teeing off, I believe.
So are we suggesting 500 feet?
I know they tee off the other way, I guess they're coming home that way, that's what it is. I'm not a
Yeah,
golfer.
you're coming home.
Yeah,
You're coming
you're
to
coming
the-
home when you're coming along that road down. Coming for a beer.
The problem with the dust control on that road, it's a rough road. So we gotta make sure that it's graded really good before that dust control goes
Yeah.
down. Cause it's rough. Like super, like throw you in the ditch rough.
So ultimately 500 feet of dust control, or are you suggesting something else?
Well, I don't know.
I would-
Is that enough? What does the rest think? I don't want to do all the talking here. Come on, guys, what do you think?
Go.
Huh?
500 feet of dust control will be about a $550 contribution. So if you think of dollar-wise, are you wanting to donate $500? Are you wanting to donate $1,000? So you can do 1,000 feet of dust control. We don't have to choose where. We can certainly let the golf course choose the appropriate places they wanted it. But you need to make the ultimate decision on the amount of it, if that's what you think.
I'd like to recommend we give them 1,000 feet of dust control and they tell us where they want it.
1,000 feet's going once. Is there any other suggestions for 1,000 feet?
It's $1,000, eh? 1,000 more?
Yeah.
$1,000, but I think
A little more, $1.10 a foot.
So about $200 of that would end up in the CT fund
Yeah.
that we would then not be paying on the back end because it's a contribution, right? Because money they don't spend on that will mean they make more in their fundraiser, which results in a donation to the CT scanner. So the two costs would be a little over 800. So 1,000 feet is what I hear. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of Swan Valley West provide 1,000 feet of dust control to the Swan River Golf and Country Club as a contribution to their 2023 fundraiser. Is there a mover? Councillor Blosha, and a seconder, please. Councillor Neely. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? As carried. Thunder Hill Ski Club is next up. That's 11-2. Attached is a letter that was sent out earlier today to the ski club. They requested a letter of support of Swan Valley West. Our current policy is that I can send a letter as long as it's not a controversial topic, so I have written a letter. It's provided there for council. What's at issue here, the ski club is completing their chalet, but there's a government funding program that closed yesterday for sport, culture, and heritage. They have made application to it for a magic carpet to be installed at the ski hill. They're looking at 50% dollars. What I committed to them was that we would discuss with our municipal partners if they needed funding, we'd talk about it. I certainly did not commit we would fund the project, but that we would have the discussion as we have in the past for anything to do with the ski club. So they asked for that in writing, which is what they have here tonight, plus a bunch of words to say how great the ski club is and how good it is for the economy. So mostly for information there. And the intention is the ski club will make a presentation at the upcoming G8 meeting. As you'll remember, I believe that's on June 12th. Your calendars are likely marked. 11.3, the Chamber of Commerce. As a note, I'm assigned to Chamber by this council, but I'm currently serving as the president of the Chamber because nobody else wished to be that on the committee. Chamber of Commerce made a presentation to the town of Swan River at their meeting last week on Tuesday. The town's discussing it tonight at their committee of the whole meeting for a community patrol vehicle. During that presentation, the town of Swan River Council asked that other councils be aware of the presentation and be given the opportunity to contribute as well. So tonight you have a copy of the presentation made to the town. The ask was for $50,000, which they had set aside for fighting crime last year. So the chamber is asking to purchase a vehicle and then have a security professional and volunteers along with the fuel to operate that vehicle in the Swan River area to reduce the crime level. There's a bunch of details there. I had heard from Mountain that they might be willing to put a little bit of money in, obviously not to the tune of $50,000. So tonight this is for information, but don't be surprised if this comes back in 2 weeks for you to decide if you wish to contribute anything to the chamber for this. The town's expected to make a decision next week, and obviously if the town was to choose not to go ahead, there would be nothing to contribute to, likely.
So this 50,000, this is what the chamber is proposing.
From the town. And the town's feeling that what the town councillors said during the presentation was they wanted other councils to be able to have skin in the game too, because crime affects everybody, not just Swan River.
Well, everybody's scared to go to groceries, so they're on one side of the road or the other.
Yep. And a lot of, I've certainly heard from hundreds of our ratepayers at this point that they're scared to shop in Swan River. And that's not healthy for us. Certainly not healthy for Swan River, but not healthy for Swan Valley West. We need people comfortable to live here. So we'll leave that as information to tonight. 11.4, Auditor General. So the Auditor General of Manitoba is very concerned with me, has asked me to convey the following to you. Under the Auditor General Act, the working papers of the Office of the Auditor General are confidential. Working papers include any evidence gathered along with the methodology used to gather the evidence, which includes all conversations between the RM and the Office of the Auditor General. During the March 28, 2023 Council meeting, I discussed in detail several aspects of the work of the OAG that's being performed in the RM. This information was apparently confidential and should not have been discussed in a public forum. Additionally, the Auditor General has some concerns that the information may have been taken out of context in the meeting. Accordingly, the public video from March 28th meeting has been edited to remove the portion that refers to the audit being conducted by the Office of the Auditor General, and that has, I think, been done already. Yes. So an issue here is when they were in the office, they disclosed a bunch of information to us about their audit that did not involve parts of Swan Valley West. And I conveyed that information at our previous council meeting to council because at the time I asked what was confidential of our conversation, and there was a misunderstanding between the two of us of which portions were confidential. So the information was shared at the prior meeting that did not relate to Swan Valley West primarily, and some of the things that related to Swan Valley West, they felt the context wasn't appropriate. So that is why the video was changed. Questions, comments?
Is that the part about the generalization?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We will move to 13, committee reports. Let's start with Councillor McGregor. All right, Councillor Neely.
Just one, April 13th, we had Swan Lake Watershed Conservation District. First big meeting, I guess. All the sub-districts were there. We went over some proposals projects, some are completed or partially done, or they're in the works, but they're looking for work. They're looking for anybody that has any projects out there. Anybody that wants the riverbank reconstructed, stuff like that. That's the kind of things that they specialize in.
Ditches cleaned.
Yeah, they're various stuff, but they're looks like they're hungry for work, right?
Yeah.
What I got out of it. And, I think just about everybody that's on the conservation district was there that night.
Yeah.
So they're caught up on all their previous projects?
No,
Because
no,
that-
not totally.
if
No,
they're looking
there's
for
some.
more
There's
work.
a couple there,
There's
right?
a couple that are ongoing yet, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
Because if
Yeah.
if you say they're looking for work, does that mean they're caught up on the ones that we had listed?
Well, no, right at the end, he said that if you know anybody, you know.
Or they
make
wanna
sure you
add
tell
some
them
more
get
to
a
their
hold of
list?
us. And
Yeah,
there is some new stuff,
sounds like they got money.
there's some paperwork now and stuff that people have to fill out to do this,
Mm-hmm.
right? You know, I didn't quite understand what that was about, but some forms and stuff that they have to go through.
Well, because some they pay partial,
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
60/40
60/40, yeah.
split on this stuff. So, no, it was good, it went a couple hours, I guess, but that was all.
Okay, Councillor Zbirun.
Same meeting. Yep.
Okay, Councillor Burick.
I attended the same meeting too as well. I've got a few projects forward from my area and also that project from the Saskatchewan-Manitoba border.
Good.
For the riverbank stabilization. So that'll be a priority, I believe, yeah.
Okay,
If I can-
And also they did, what do you call it, the flight, the aerial view of
The drones up there.
the room, yeah. Of the project that we had up north,
okay, good.
the farmer that was here.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's going to be worked on this summer.
Okay, back to Councillor
If I
Burick.
could backtrack a little,
Sure.
Brian reminded me something. I also brought forward a request to do a survey on Road 172 north of the ditch road.
Okay,
So that will be coming, there'll be a bill for that, I guess. We gotta get to the bottom of that situation, or you get sort of.
yes. Okay, Councillor Blosha.
No committee meetings.
Councillor Kushniryk.
Just the LUD committee, it was pretty brief. Discussed some maintenance items and things they can watch for around town and really not a whole lot more.
Okay, and we did committee reports, but communicating to, is there anything, like, other stuff we want to discuss here? I'll go through mine if it brings up any questions. Fire board, we need to have a fire board meeting, that's Councillor Kushniryk, Councillor Zbirun, and myself. So we need to provide dates and availability to the other board members to hold that meeting. If we could do that tomorrow morning or something, so we can get that underway, that needs to be a meeting. Bozeman landfill, some concerns came forward here previous about the landfill. I've been looking into those a bit, working with the contractor there a bit on concerns about the bin and some things. I don't have much to report tonight other than it is being looked into, so we're trying to find resolution to those concerns that were brought up. Sarah Lake Road, we'll hear a little bit, I'm sure, in camera from Mr. Bobick. I see he's joined us, but I can advise publicly that work continues on that project. Permits are being drawn now to go ahead with that project. And we're also searching for contractors to do the work for us. The budgetary amount is still in the $100,000 to $150,000 range to complete that project this summer. So that's what we know about that. I believe last time around we knew the court date, but we're going to court in November on the ticket that we could not resolve with a guilty plea. The other ticket, we're just in the finalization process now of being able to pay the amount that we agreed to when we had a fine reduction. Questions, comments on anything else before we take our break here, and then we'll go in camera after? Not seeing anything from the group. So we will adjourn for about 10 minutes or so. When we return from adjournment, we will be passing a resolution to go in camera. Thank you, everybody.
Before you get up, can I just say something? Maybe it's a curse to have ratepayers sitting here, but you're going around the table talking about an issue that you want to possibly wonder what ratepayers are going to say. You could just ask us and save maybe a half an hour of chasing the cat on the pavement. Because you said yourself, you're going to make policy by this decision of 50-50 on the, well, how can you not expect ratepayers to call you if you just stated policy that you're going to start doing at busy intersections 50/50 dust control. So you've got to leave it open. That's from a ratepayer.
Meredith, we wish you a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Have a good evening.
So we're going to 14.3.1, we're adjusting tax sale. Be it resolved that the Municipality of Swan Valley West remove the following properties from tax sale. Roll number
305800.
305800. Be resolved, the Municipality of Swan Valley West remove the following properties from the tax sale and credit the fees incurred so far. Roll number 305800 is the remover for the resolution. Councillor Kushniryk, seconded by Councillor Zbirun. I saw his hand there a minute ago. Any discussion on this resolution? Hearing none, we'll call the question. Those in favour? That is carried. We will move now to 14.3.2. Council had discussed last meeting we would make 2 job offers. They've both been accepted, so we're here to officially hire those people. Be it resolved that Nathan Rain and Carter Mine be hired as per the terms offered by the municipality. Is the remover. Councillor Neely, and a seconder, please. Councillor McGregor. Any discussion on the resolution? We certainly wish both gentlemen a long and happy career with Swan Valley West. Call the question. Those in favour? That's carried. I believe that is everything we're doing coming out of camera. Does anyone have any other resolutions that we need to bring following the in-camera? No? We'll move to 15, notice of motion. I see one coming there. Hand that up. I think there's another one coming. Sign that, please. I believe these are both the same. So I have 2 notice of motions.
For the same thing.
For the same thing. So review, rescind the decision of council. I have Councillor Kushniryk presenting to, he will give written notice, he will at the next regular meeting of council, introduce motion to reconsider resolution 2023-203. I also have from Councillor Zbirun, notice at the next regular meeting of council, he'll introduce a motion to reconsider resolution 2023-203. You gentlemen can sort out amongst yourself who's going to bring that resolution to the next meeting.
Flip a coin.
Yep. But notice is thereby given. I will pass those to the CAO, so it is.
As I win, tails you lose.
Yeah, something like that.
Okay, is there any other business for council this evening? Hearing none. Be it resolved, this meeting shall now adjourn at
Carrie, progress.
10:51 p.m. and the next meeting is Tuesday,
I'm half
May.
home in my mind.
9th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Mover, please. Councillor Blosha. I see Councillor Neely. Any further discussion? Call the question. Those in favour? That is carried.